So the situation, of course, is changing rapidly. We were all hoping that there would be some positive outcome from the talks in Islamabad. That has not happened, and as a result of which, now we are looking at what the way that I see it as the next phase of war. The ceasefire is still, of course, holding out, but the blockade is about to start, and that may change the complexion of this conflict. Where is it going, and what can we expect from the Trump administration? Joining us today is a very special guest. Kathleen Doornbos is the New York Post foreign policy and national security reporter. She's been in Islamabad to cover these talks. She is still in Islamabad, so of course she has had a great vantage point to look at what is happening, how things are turning out, and what could evolve in the next coming days. Thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure to have you with us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right, so you've been reporting on this for a long time now. This present situation where we are all seeing the blockade about to come into force, do you think this is a direct result of the American administration kind of running out of options?
I don't think that is the case at all, actually. I think that it is a clear use of power to convince the Iranians to come to the table. There is a deal that has been presented, and it shows how serious the United States is about that deal. Now, I do think it's interesting that the United States gave Iran such a lead time before the strait was put into place, this blockade. Of course, part of that is legality reasons. We legally really needed to do that to give everyone, mariners, the heads up that this would be the case. But on top of that, I mean, it gave Iran enough time to change their mind and do an about face. And really, that could happen at any point. Iran still has the ability to change their minds or make a few more concessions, vice versa, continue talks, make some good faith efforts to go back and forth. So it's going to be interesting to see how these next hours develop.
The problem that I'm seeing here, and I would love to hear your response to that, is that there is clearly a very big gap between how the American administration is looking at this war and how the Iranians are looking at it. Both are claiming victory, and the fact is that, when we heard the Vice President of America in his final remarks before he left Islamabad saying that they presented Iran some terms which they refused to accept. Now, you only present terms to somebody who's actually lost the war. But Iran hasn't lost the war. So the problem that we are seeing is perhaps that what the US could not achieve on the battleground, they were expecting to get on the negotiating table.
No. Frankly, when you end a war, yes, you're right, that one person wins, one person loses. However, in order to do diplomacy, which is what is happening here, you kind of have to make both sides feel like they can sell to their own people that they've won the war. So when you're talking about how they are so far apart and one person's winning, one person's losing, or not at all, you're making those assumptions based on the state talking points of the Iranian administration and the US administration. And what we know, as journalists, is that the truth lies a little bit further beneath what those statements are actually saying. There's a little bit more nuance to it than just the Iranians say, do it my way, and the US says, do it my way. There's a lot of nuance here in foreign policy.
And that nuance, actually, and I agree with you, there's a nuance, but here's the fear that, we are seeing here. Perhaps that nuance that you are referring to is not being read properly in Washington. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that, and then do kindly respond to that.
Please.
The reason why I'm saying that is because, escalation of the war has not delivered any result so far. for the Americans. Now, that's why talks took place. Now, since the talks didn't produce any concrete result, we are seeing another escalatory step by Washington in the shape of this naval blockade. Now, the argument being given is that with this blockade, Iran is going to lose the revenue that it was earning from sending its own oil to China and to other places. But what it will also do is now further reduce the supply of oil available in the international market, which will ultimately drive up prices again, leading to higher gasoline prices in the US, which will add more pressure to a president who's going into midterm elections. So how does this logic work?
How long do you think that the Iranians can withstand not having its main source of its economy being funneled into it? I think that is the decision-making factor that President Trump has applied here. He is making a bet, an educated bet, that the Iranians will have to come to the table and make a change. And also, the negotiators themselves might be privy to more information than just you and I have. They might know that Iran actually was a lot closer to making a deal than they seem to be, as they publicly demonstrate. There may have been something where, I mean, it's very clear that the Iranians needed to go home and speak with whoever it is who's making the final decision in Iran. There was really never an opportunity for them to be able to make concessions here from Pakistan. They can't just call home and make those arrangements like J.D. Vance was able to call President Trump 6, 7, 8 times. So, I mean, again, there's a lot of unknowns here. And when we're talking about this economic lever, I also have to just remind people that it's not bombs. It's not missiles. It is very serious. It is still under the laws of war. It's still an act of war. However, we don't have people dying right now. And I think that is something beautiful and something that we cannot forget. And honestly, Pakistan has a lot to do with being able to bring that ceasefire into place.
A couple of other issues. Of course, we can talk about how much this naval blockade will work or not. Hard to say, of course. We'll have to see. But clearly, I think you're right. It's a question of who can win this war of attrition. How long can Iran hold out without with a deep cut to the revenues? How long can President Trump hold out with rising prices and everything? So it will end up being a war of attrition. But coming back to the negotiations that you've been covering and reporting so comprehensively, we've seen I'm sure you've also seen the post on X by the Iranian foreign minister, who said that they were inches away from what he terms as an Islamabad accord. And then at the last minute, there was a back and forth, and then, there is some general sort of suspicion that perhaps Trump moved the goalpost. So did you get this any information or indication that the two sides were really close to some sort of an agreement and then things fell apart?
No, I didn't get that. My main source, my takeaway was that the U.S. came here to make a deal, and they tried, and they tried, and they tried, and they tried. That is based on a number of factors. J.D. Vance staked a lot of political capital on coming here. He needed to come away with an agreement. Now, it's diplomacy. I don't think anybody's holding it over his head that he wasn't able to take home a deal. This is because these types of things take time. But I was there. You were there as well. We stayed up all night long waiting for some kind of momentum. And that could suggest that, yes, some progress was being made, because I think if no progress was being made, they would have just turned around and gone home. But I don't know. I hate to speculate, because really it's speculation to try to talk about how whether President Trump moved the goalpost. I just can't trust anything that is coming out of it's not even coming out of Iranians' mouths. It's coming out of a Twitter feed by an Iranian official that is probably not even being written by that official himself.
So obviously, there's a lot of information that needs much more verification from both sides. We do understand that, and unfortunately, I think everybody, including you and I, were hoping that something concrete would come out. It hasn't come out, but we've still got a few more days till the ceasefire deadline.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
there are reports, generally again verified, that perhaps either there is already some quiet effort underway to have more negotiation, more diplomacy, or at least try and make sure that the ceasefire deadline doesn't mean going back to active fighting. Anything that you're hearing in that context about prospects for maybe another round of talks, perhaps not at the level of the vice president and the speaker, but still some sort of an engagement between the two sides before the deadline runs out?
I think that it is very likely that there are back channel communications happening as we speak right now. I think that Pakistanis are being the major mediators here, as they have been, passing notes. I don't think that there is direct talks happening between the two of them. It's possible that new talks could be held, but it's also, I haven't heard anything confirming that. And so I have been reticent to report anything on that until I have that confirmed by some kind of an official on both sides, and particularly on the U.S. side. We just don't want to get ahead of what that might be.
And finally, of course, the fact that you've been here, you've reported from here, and you've seen the whole process up close and personal. Obviously, we are very happy as Pakistanis that we've played a role to try and find a resolution to this conflict. We've tried our best, I think. You'd probably agree, and I think it was nice of both the delegations to acknowledge Pakistan's efforts. And I think I agree with you that given the fact that we've earned this trust from both the American side and the Iranian side, I think it's a very valuable thing today. And I don't think there are too many countries in the world who actually have this kind of a relationship with both the sides. So which means that the prospects of Pakistan continuing in this role are very bright. Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with that. I think that Pakistan has a role here, an opportunity to kind of become the Switzerland, if you will, of the Middle East. It has an opportunity to play a big role in facilitating peace.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Switzerland with nuclear weapons. Just to add.
Sure. Sure. And, of course, by that analogy, I mean a relatively neutral power.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So
good point there.
But your experience in Pakistan, just tell us a couple of good sentences, and then we'll thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. So I didn't know what to expect when I came to Pakistan. I'd never come. I'd never really done much study on the country, but it's been really wonderful. Honestly, I have to say the Twitter outreach on X and social media has just been wonderful. Not only do I feel welcomed here in person everywhere I go, but I feel like I've built this whole community of wonderful people here in Pakistan that I'm going to be able to take home with me. And I just could not be more grateful for my time here.
Caitlin Doornbos, pleasure to have you, and we hope that you have a wonderful time your stay in Pakistan. Thank you so much for joining us. We will take a short break. When we come back, another very important guest joining us. We'll go over the prospects of peace at a time when the naval blockade is kicking into operation few hours from now. Do stay with us.